Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Worn and Wound podcast. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Blake. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Worn and Wound, and I am joined by two of my esteemed colleagues in the room with me. Nelly Calhoun, events manager.
What's up?
Virtually in another room at his home, Kyle Snarr, head of partnerships.
Hey. Good to see you.
Technically, Kyle and I can't see each other because I insisted on sitting on the other side of the table and the monitor's not facing that way and it's a whole thing. But, you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. So this episode is going to be a deep dive on the New York City Windup Watch Fair, which we've had podcasts in the past about the Windup Watch Fair. And we are always telling you that the event is getting bigger and better and greater and wilder and more involved and more feature rich and all these different things, which is always true. But it's never been more true than it is with the New York City Windup Watch Fair. This is, as we will get into shortly, by far the largest Windup Watch Fair we've ever hosted. As we are now officially staking the claim, it's the biggest watch fair in the world. It's a big deal. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. And here's your podcast that's going to outline all of the nitty-gritty details that you're going to need to know to make sure that you have a good time and that you're prepared to make the most of the weekend. But before we get there, let's do a quick wrist check. It's customary. Kyle, I can't see you, but I'm guessing you're wearing a watch.
I am wearing a watch. Yep. I put this on like very naturally today, but it's a nice little shout out because it's one of the brands that is actually coming to a Windup Watch Fair for the first time. I'm wearing my Forstner Pilot watch that they came out with earlier this year. I got to do some really great content around this line of watches with them. And I've got it on a kind of a cool mustard yellow ribbed NATO that matches the little kind of like faux Tina indices of the dial as well. So it's a really cool little combo. Put it on naturally, but it's great because this is their first time at Windup this year. So they'll have their amazing bands and straps and their watches as well.
Sick. It is a very cool watch. I see it on your wrist often and I'm jealous. Yeah. I might take it. Just steal it one day. What office drama would that be if I just start stealing people's stuff? That would be great.
I hope you don't.
I won't. I promise.
You can borrow.
Nelly,
you've lent me not watches before. Go, Nelly.
It's true. Nelly, what do you got on your wrist?
Okay, so I have a little family history stack on today. Blake's already shaking his head at me. So I am wearing a little jewelry style vintage watch. It was my grandmother's Concord watch. She was gifted it by her great uncle when she turned 16. And she grew up in Biel, Switzerland. And so she was sort of living in and around a bunch of watch industry. And her godfather ended up moving to the United States and was the president of Concord Watch in the US. And he gifted this to her for her 16th birthday. I didn't really know my grandmother very well. She passed away when I was very young, but I was given the same watch for my 16th birthday. So it's a very sentimental piece. And I feel like I put it on when I need a little oomph from the ancestors, a little strength, you know? And then I also recently found, digging around in a jewelry box, my great grandfather on the other side, his pocket watch chain. And so I wear that kind of as a bracelet now. And I know it's a little bit of a faux pas to be stacking, but I'm doing it.
It looks great.
It's cool. It's cool.
So I'm calling on my roots, the watch titans in my family, to get me through.
Who knew?
A week before Windup.
Yeah. Nelly needs the strength right now. As we're recording this,
give it to me.
We're in the thick of the final stages of doing Windup. And as mentioned previously, I'll get to my wrist check in a second. Don't worry, guys. As mentioned previously, this is the largest Windup ever, largest watch fair in the world. Nelly knows this well. You know, I went through all this work to silence my notifications, and then Nelly has her laptop. This is so unprofessional.
Zach Weiss slacked us. So
don't pay attention to him. Cool. Well, thanks for asking. So I have on my wrist the new Speedmaster with the white lacquer dial. I've had this watch, I think this is the first time it's been on the podcast. Again, don't come on the podcast very often. Producer Kat, who's on the line but isn't audible, no longer invites me on the podcast, so this watch hasn't been on the podcast. But
Okay. Don't throw shade at Kat when she can't even defend herself.
it's okay. Yeah,
Kat, I got you.
Yeah. White Lacquer Speedmaster. I don't have an interesting story about it. Shout out to Watchfornia on Instagram. He's the gentleman who helped procure this for me, and I love it. It's super sick. I got rid of my regular black Speedmaster. It's now in the good hands of our photographer, Garrett Jones. He seems pretty thrilled.
He's wearing it today.
Yeah, I think he's over the moon about it.
Hey, now.
Bump.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, now that that's out of the way,
You.
yeah. We have a lot to get to about the show, but I think probably the most important thing that we reiterate is where and when it's going to be. So this is going to be at 415 Fifth Avenue, also known as Center 415. That's the name of the facility. It's between 37th and 38th Street on Fifth Avenue. So what's cool about that is like a block away from watch time. So if you're in the city, you're doing the watch event thing, super easy to get to their show after our show or get to our show after their show. So make sure that you show them some love and head over there and get your tickets and all that good stuff. So we're going to be open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as we always are. Friday will be open from 12 to 6. Saturday will be open from 12 to 6, and Sunday will be open from 12 to 5. And as always, free and open to the public, no registration required. Come as you are. This has been the founding principle of Windup from the very beginning. We want to make sure that there's literally no barrier to somebody coming to the event and having a good time. So again, just to repeat, 415 Fifth Avenue, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, October 18th, 19th, and 20th. Free and open to the public.
I will say the only potential boundary of entry is just going to be capacity on a rolling basis.
Yeah.
Call in the fire marshal. We had a very busy fair in New York last year, and I can only imagine with all of the brands, it's essentially doubling in size. So
I mean, so the high level, notes to hit on this show is that we've been advertising over 130.
We recounted
and it's now
updates. Yeah.
Over 140.
146.
That's a whole lot of brands.
That's a
lot of watch and gear brands.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into more shortly. But what's exciting, as Nelly mentioned, the last show and many of our previous shows have been super packed. And what's cool about the show is not only are we growing the number of brands that are going to be there, but we've moved into a space that should really allow us to comfortably fit a much larger number of people. So I don't remember what our previous venue was. Shout out to the Altman building. It was like 10,000 square feet, maybe?
I think around 15 across both floors. And this venue is 30,000 square feet. So truly doubled in size.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That's great. I think that's 10 times the size, more than 10 times the size of our first Windup location. Sick. So it's a really great venue. It's multiple floors. We're going to have an expanded EDC Expo. We're going to have watches on every floor. We're going to have watchmakers doing strap changing and bracelet resizing on every floor. So there's a ton to get to and a ton we'll go through. Cool. So let's start off as we always do with some of them, I think our closest partners, some of the brands that really help make Windup what it is, which is our lead sponsors. And when I say that, I mean, they're making a greater investment in the show. They're coming and making a larger investment in terms of time and energy put into how they're displaying their product. And that really helps facilitate and make the show what it is. And it's a huge benefit to us. So the lead sponsors are Bulova, Christopher Ward, Fortis, Oris, and Shinola. And Shinola is going to be a lead sponsor for the first time, which is super exciting. And Oris is going to be a lead sponsor for the millionth time because they've been a lead sponsor of the show every time that we've had a lead sponsor, which is, again, a tremendous testament to their partnership with us, but really more importantly, their belief in this community, in watch enthusiasts, in a show like Windup. Really can't give them enough credit for seeing the vision early on and supporting it every year. So a huge thanks to the team over at Oris and really all of the lead sponsors. We love working with all of them and they're all really sick. So like I mentioned, we're going to have two very large floors of, You know what? I'm going through here's a peek behind the curtain. I'm going through an outline that Kyle put together.
Yep.
It was hosting this podcast was foisted upon me at the last minute. I know you can't tell because I'm doing such a great job.
You're amazing.
But I want to hand it over to Nelly and Kyle to go through some of this outline because I don't want to steal all the thunder. So I'm going to kick it to you, Nelly. You seem antsy to get.
I'm excited. I'm excited because
across.
It's such a big leap for us. So this year, we spent quite a lot of time looking into new venues as we were obviously outgrowing Altman Building. But again, shout out, they're great. And what really struck us about this venue, Center 415, is that there were so many great transition spaces. There's a ton of room for brands to spread out. There was room to invite more brands because we had always had a pretty long wait list, especially for New York, which is kind of our flagship event. So on the lower level, there are basically 3 main spaces. There's our EDC Expo, which this year is brought to us by Nomadic. You know that the team here loves Nomadic bags and gear. And just a personal shout out, I used one of their collapsible tote bags as my beach bag all summer long, and it rules. I don't have a camera to schlep around, so use my beach towels. Okay, I digress. So we have our EDC Expo. We have our lower level watch exhibit hall. That's being held down, sort of bookended by Christopher Ward and Shinola, our 2 lead sponsors on the lower level. And on the lower level, we have about 30 other watch brands. The other big section on the lower level is a whole room dedicated to panels. We have a bar, which we had to forego last year in New York just to fit more brands. We also had to forego panels. We'll have a big lounge space. So all of this extra room that we weren't able to accommodate in the Altman Building last year, so we could accommodate some brands, we're able to accommodate in this new venue. Then there's a second level, which has some really cool sort of pass-through areas and smaller galleries, and we'll talk a little bit more about what will be in those in a moment. But then on the upper level, we have about 100 watch brands in one room, which is amazing. So it's a huge venue. Make sure you, as you come, you plan to spend a lot of time because there will be a lot to see. The other thing that we sort of counted for the first time was where our watch brands were coming from. And we have brands coming in to New York from over 16 countries. So Kyle,
this was something that Zach Weiss was kind of like, hey, where are all these brands coming from? So we did a kind of a count, and I think I got them all, but if I didn't, apologies to anyone I missed. But 16 different countries are supplying brands to us this year to showcase across this awesome industry. So we have brands obviously from the US, but we also have them from the UK, Canada, Ireland, France, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, Japan, Australia, Singapore, Philippines, Hong Kong, Norway, and the Czech Republic. So 16 is what I counted. I think we got them all, but it's kind of an amazing thought that brands from around the world are all flocking to one place to be in front of the enthusiast community. And I think it really shows just how important, you as the enthusiast community is to this industry to have that kind of gravitational pull. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I did a count the other day. We have 50 brands that are coming to Windup New York for the very first time. So that's not that, meaning that their very first Windup will be New York City this year. That's not even including the brands that have joined us earlier this year in San Francisco and Chicago that will be in New York for the first time. That's first time Windup brands, 54. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of those who are even coming to the US for the first time and ever having their watches on US soil. So that's really exciting as well.
Yeah. So Nelly, you had mentioned that Buclati, our drink sponsor, is going to be running a bar in the panel room.
I did mention that bar.
What if you're not trying to get saucy over the weekend? What if you need maybe a pick-me-up? You need a non-alcoholic,
Oh my gosh.
caffeinated beverage. What are you going to do? You got to schlep down to Dunkin' Donuts and drink that garbage? What's the plan?
No. You're going to walk up to the second floor gallery right at the top of the stairs, and our friends from Brew have a full-blown coffee bar.
Mm-hmm.
They are sponsoring a coffee bar. So when you need to get that extra kick so you can go into overdrive and check out the last 60 booth spaces you haven't seen, you can have your little midday espresso. You can sing the song of the summer if you really want to. Me espresso. And then you can roll forth to the rest of the fair.
Yeah. No, that's super exciting. I think we've been talking about, well, technically, I think Brew brought a barista at the very first windup.
Oh, wow.
And they were slanging drinks for free, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. But we've been talking about doing like a more full-blown coffee bar forever. So it's really exciting that we're doing it because it makes a ton of sense. And I know that our team is going to enjoy being able to get like 400 coffees throughout the day.
Wired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'll be really good.
Yeah. Huge thanks to John and Birch Coffee for making that happen for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's going to be, and we have a lot to get through, but I'm just trying to think of everybody's experience at the fair. It's like you've had so many conversations, you've seen so many watches. Maybe you want to take a step back and have more of like an observatory, sort of like just kind of check things out, slow down the pace. If there were only some sort of like an exhibit style activation that you could engage in, is there anything like that at the fair this year?
Yeah, we are excited. As Nelly mentioned, thanks for the setup here, Blake. There is some transitionary rooms and spaces, and we're really kind of able to leverage them in some fun ways. And we're big thanks to our friends at Casio, who are experiencing their 50th anniversary this year. They've taken over one of these transitionary spaces and built out what's being kind of referred to as our Casio timeline room. So that is going to be a fully decked out space that gives the full history of all of Casio's watches, from their very first digital wristwatches all the way up into the most modern G-Shocks that are around. So that'll be super cool, fun use of one of these transitionary spaces, and just a chance to kind of, like you said, Blake, kind of slow things down and take it all in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And it's a really great opportunity to check out some of the really cool stuff that like Casio G-Shock has done over the years. Like it's always fun to see not only like their early origins, but like what they were doing in the 80s and the 90s. And frankly, like there's so many cool things there. Like you should see them and then go badger the Casio people to re-release them because they're really sick. They're really cool. Cool. Well, I think what we're going to do for sort of the rest of this conversation is we're just going to kind of run through some of our sort of favorite attractions that we want to see while we're at the show. And, I'll take one and then I'll pass it around to other folks to kind of talk about. You had mentioned EDC Expo. Just kind of want to point there. We have a number of brands at EDC Expo. So we introduced EDC Alley in San Francisco 2021, I think. And that was sort of our first foray into, introducing non-watch product into Windup. And
it was 2023.
Oh, okay.
Time flies
when you're having
2023.
Fun.
That's
totally.
Right.
But we've graduated to a full-blown EDC Expo, which is we debuted in San Francisco this year. So some of the brands that are going to be coming and participating in EDC Expo: Able Carry, Boundary Layer Studio, Giant Mouse, our friends, the great knife makers, ProTech Knives, Spring Made, Urban Cred, Vault, and a ton more. So if you're at the show and you're curious about learning more about the world of knives or the world of bags or whatever the case may be, like we're going to have a ton of vendors there that you can kind of dip into and chat with. One thing that I'm really excited about, which Kyle, I'll kind of hand off to you, but I think I'm really excited to have is Axia Time. One of our new partners is actually going to be bringing a watch that they developed sort of in collaboration with the Heisman Trophy Institution Trust, and they're going to have the actual Heisman Trophy at the fair. Yeah, which is really cool. I'm not even like a huge college football fan, but I'm like, oh, that's the Heisman Trophy. And I'm walking around the office all day doing the Heisman Trophy pose. That's like my favorite thing to do.
Always
It's very strange, but it gets me hyped for work, you know? But this is super cool. I'm very excited. I know there was a lot of work and effort and focus put into getting this opportunity. So Kyle, do you want to kind of dig into
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a couple things. So first, super stoked on EDC Expo. Big thanks to Nomadic for being our presenting sponsor of EDC Expo. And yeah, Axia Time is a US company that makes Swiss made automatic timepieces that are really designed around commemorating life's greatest achievements and moments. And they have a huge kind of sports tie-in where they make a lot of watches for collegiate teams and some pro teams. They have just finished a new, kind of minting a relationship between Axia Time and the Heisman Trophy Trust to be the official timepiece of the Heisman Trophy. So for years, the winner of the Heisman Trophy would just get the trophy and really nothing else to kind of commemorate that moment. And the people who were the finalists and honorees wouldn't really get anything, apparently. So Axia is now producing and will be unveiling at Windup the official Heisman Trophy watch that will be given to the winner, as well as they will also be creating watches for finalists and honorees. And then eventually we'll have kind of like a consumer grade version for anyone who's just a big fan of the Heisman legacy. And we're just, very grateful to them for choosing Windup as one of the places to actually have the Heisman Trophy there for folks to see, but not only see, we're setting it up in a way so that you can be able to get a picture with it, not really holding it, but kind of step behind it and get a photo with it. So that will be really exciting as well. So that will be on our little, the location of that trophy will be on our little pamphlet maps that we hand out at the front of the room. Or if you find Axia Time, they'll point you in the right direction. It'll be right near their booth, but on the upper level. But super excited for them, again, to choose Windup as a place to showcase this cool relationship.
For sure. Now that's what I call a touchdown.
Hey.
Look out.
Extra point. Cool. No, I'm super excited for that. I think that's going to be great. We also have a really cool opportunity with our friends at Vortic. So
do you want me to talk about this one too?
Yeah. Yeah. Kyle, why don't you dig into this?
Cool. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of the Amazon series Jack Ryan, and I was definitely watching it, last year, and I was like, that is a really familiar looking watch. And sure enough, in a couple of shots, if you notice, they're wearing pretty cool, pretty big Vortic watches, a couple of the actors, and including John Krasinski. So those watches were sourced by their prop master for the show. One of the actors wore one of the watches in season 3, and then I think a couple people were wearing them, including John Krasinski in season 4. These 3 watches that were used across those 2 seasons are going to be on display at Windup this year. So you can go to the Vortic booth on the upper level and see those watches and take pictures of them and stuff. 2 of those watches will be auctioned off for charity in December at Christie's. But the third watch, which is one of the ones worn by John Krasinski, will be part of a sweepstakes hosted by Vortic, where anyone can enter to win that very watch, the prop watch from season 4 of Jack Ryan. And all you need to do is swing by their booth and provide an email address, or online. You can do that as well. But that's pretty cool. A big thanks to RT and the Vortic team for choosing Windup as a place to showcase these really cool watches that will be on display and eventually, auctioned or charity or given away as a big sweepstakes. So that's, again, big thanks for choosing Windup for that kind of activation.
Absolutely. And you can check out the Vortic booth on the second level. As you enter the big exhibit hall, there'll be the first brand all the way to the right. So find them there.
Sick. That's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We mentioned it already.
Yeah. Can I do just kind of a little rundown of all of the extra stuff, just so we have it all together?
Sure.
So we mentioned the coffee bar being sponsored by Brew and Birch Coffee. Great coffee. If you've never had it, I think they just opened a new location. We have the Bruichladdich bar. Bruichladdich has joined us now in San Francisco and in Chicago. It's an amazing Scotch whiskey, very attractive bottle. We have one on the weekend watches wall, so Easter egg if you can spot it next time you're watching. It's in a bright teal bottle. They'll have a booth where they're offering tastings, and then you can go to the bar and get a cocktail. So that's awesome. I know our sponsors always love having the Bruichladdich bar, and our attendees also.
If you're trying to get a deal on a watch, pro tip: go get a drink, bring it to the booth of the brand you're trying to get a watch
That
from.
is smart. Oh man.
Say, hey, oh man, you're so cool. I brought you a drink. That watch is nice. I just spent all my money on this alcohol.
You are actually a genius, and I would bet that some sponsors would shell out a little discount.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so.
If you bring them a drink.
Also related to bars, this is a total aside, but this is my pro tip for when you go to a wedding and there's an open bar. If there's not already a tip jar, ask the bartender to start one. Always be like, oh, can I start a tip jar for you? Whoa. You'll get served first, heavy all night. All night. It's foolproof.
That's pretty good.
That's my pro tip.
That is a CEO.
Life hacks.
Yeah.
Life hacks.
That is a CEO right
Let
there.
Let me tell you.
Well, speaking of hacking, not really. But I just also wanted to mention that we will have strap changing and bracelet resizing booth spaces on both floors. So on the lower level, our friends at David Lane Designs, awesome strap maker. He will be resizing bracelets and watch straps. He helped us out in Chicago as well. And on the second level, we will have our friends back from Grand Central Watch, and they will have a watchmaker there also doing the same kind of strap changing. And they're bringing in some cool instruments where you can have your watch tested. Cool. So they have a bunch of fun toys that they're bringing in. Not to call them toys, to be belittling, but in the spirit of
I'm
joy.
sure to them
a
it's
joy
toys.
toy. A joy toy.
For passionate watchmakers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Exactly. So those are really exciting, and we'll have a full slate of programming and panels. Kyle, do you want to talk a little bit about what we have on the schedule?
Yeah, we have a bunch of amazing kind of a run of show of great content and panels that'll be coming from the fair. Starting on Friday, we will have a couple of Worn and Wound panels over the weekend. The first one will be on Friday with a full cast of Worn and Wound characters, followed by a pretty big announcement from Oris as we record with them our official Worn and Wound podcast live from the fair. And then we'll kind of wrap that evening up with Zodiac and eBay, who are launching something exciting together. So that will kind of coincide with a happy hour event on Friday. Then Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. before the fair officially opens, you can register for a great co-podcast recording between the Worn and Wound podcast and Open Work, which is a podcast from Collective Horology. This is a live podcast recording with special guests Jonathan Ferrer from Brew and Martin Fry from Work. So this will be an amazing podcast all about the elements of design. So register with for that one with Collective Horology, or email us and we'll get that registration out to you. Then after the fair opens, we'll be doing a really cool podcast with Squale, including TGV from the Urban Gentry will be one of our guests on that particular podcast at 1 a.m. We'll be doing a really fun podcast with Shinola about reviving American watchmaking with RT from Vortic. And then we'll wrap the day up with Christopher Ward and working to hear more about how they build their watches with their Swiss counterparts. And Zach Weiss will be hosting that particular panel. And then we'll have another happy hour on Saturday hosted by our friends at Bruichladdich. Then on Sunday, we're excited to have a kind of fun, kind of bookend sort of panel. A couple of years ago, we did a panel in New York called The British Invasion. And this panel is now going to be called The French Revolution, presented by Awake, with different French brands, we have several French brands coming to the fair this year, which we're really excited about, and kind of exploring that uptick in French watchmaking. And then we will also have a really unique opportunity with Bulova, who just released and premiered a documentary of their 150-year anniversary. We'll get a small sampling of that documentary film, and even folks who helped make that film will join us on stage. So it should be a pretty jam-packed 3 days of amazing content, and finish that off with another Worn and Wound podcast from the fair. So should be a lot of fun, and looking forward to it.
And you don't have to memorize all of that. You can head over to windupwatchfair.com, where we have a full schedule of events. So you can check that out there.
Sick. Those are great panels. I'm excited to check some of those out if I can. I think I'm on one. Hopefully I don't make a fool of myself, but the other ones I'm looking forward to watching.
I'll coach you because this podcast has been a little rocky.
Hey. No, that's great. That's really exciting. Yeah, I just a couple of things that stick out to me from that list of conversations, which like all of them are really cool. I think it's really great that Shinola and Bordick are doing a podcast together. They have very different approaches to making watches in America. And I think, I don't know necessarily everything that they're going to discuss, but I think that just the fact that they're doing one together is a statement to sort of the way of thinking that like there are a lot of different ways to approach making things in America, and there's not just one sort of cookie cutter way of doing it. And then I know the conversation with Christopher Ward will be really interesting. Zach and I went out to London for the British Watchmakers Day. Was that earlier this year?
Yes.
Time does fly.
In March.
The older you get. And got a chance to chat with Mike Francis, CEO, Christopher Ward, and some of the other folks on the team. And we've said it before, but just some of the stuff that they're doing with their manufacturing partners is really cool. And the stuff they're able to accomplish across their line, from the more affordable to sort of the more expensive, is just really incredible. So that'll be a really cool conversation. I'm excited to check out. We're also going to have some giveaways.
We are. So every year at Windup, at the very front, at the registration desk, we offer the opportunity for folks to enter a giveaway. This year, we have giveaways from Europa Star, which is they're our media partner for Windup. We give away their magazines at the front, so you can flip through one, but they're giving away a year subscription to the lucky winner. We also have first-time Windup brand Atelier Wen giving away a very cool watch. Marathon, who has come to the fair now multiple times, are a great partner of ours. They will also have be a member of the giveaway. And then last but not least, we have a Cadola watch, which will also be available via the giveaway. So the great news is that when you get to Windup, it's like the first thing you can do, check that off your list. But if you can't come to Windup in person and you still want to enter, you can go online, check out our socials. We'll have a link for anyone, regardless of where you are, to enter for a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be at the fair in person.
But if you're in the tri-state and the only thing you were coming for was the giveaway, don't let that be an excuse not to come. If all you were looking forward to was getting something for free, you should still come.
Yeah.
I think it's a very small crosstab. Hashtag politics. Very small crosstab of people, but I'm just saying. And, I think aside from all the amazing activations and everything that's going on, I think, at its very core, people are coming to check out cool stuff, to check out cool product. And it's been really exciting to see brands kind of focus their release schedule around Windup, especially Windup New York. And this year is no different. We have a number of brands releasing brand new product at Windup that you're going to get to see for the very first time on the 18th. Kyle, do you want to run through a few of those?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many that are releasing, and some of them let us know ahead of time, and others kind of keep it close to their vest, which is totally fine. But we know for a fact that we're going to see new releases from brands in our kind of lead sponsor positions like Oris and Bulova, who will be releasing either new lines extensions to their entire catalog or really special editions specific to Windup, which we're really excited about. We know that there's a little kind of fun teaser that we can tease out that Zodiac and eBay have something cooked up that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun for folks who are interested in the idea of eBay being a big part of their collecting habit. We also have cool releases from brands like Laco, Tax, and one that, Nelly and I have gone back and forth on the exact pronunciation, but a really cool French brand called, I'm going to go with Busey, or Bucci, one of the three of those. We'll be releasing a watch as well. So that's really exciting. So Nelly, when you do the big rundown, which I encourage you to do today, we'll see what no, we're not going to avoid it. We're going to have you read the whole 100 and however many brand list, but we'll see how Nelly chooses to pronounce that and other things.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of new stuff. That is probably, I would guess, a fraction of the number of new product that you're going to get to see at the show. We know
it's just a fraction.
Yeah.
Those are some that we're excited for.
Yeah. Understandably so. As Kyle said, some brands don't have or aren't in a position to share much information with us about it, but we do know something's coming. So yeah, you're just going to have to come and check it out, scavenger hunt around the show. Absolutely. And get some cool stuff. So we're sort of getting to the tail end of the conversation. We all know what's coming next. Nelly's going to read the full list of brands.
My palms are already sweaty.
Yeah. Like Eminem. It's a hoot when Nelly does that. Very excited. But before we get to that, I just want to remind everybody of the dates and the location for the show, so you have no excuse not to know what's going on. So we're going to be at Center 415 Fifth Avenue between 37th and 38th Streets. The event is going to be October 18th, 19th, and 20th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. From on Friday and Saturday, it's 12 to 6. On Sunday, it's 12 to 5. Free and open to the public. No registration required. Also, one really quick shout out. Registrations are full. Apologies if you didn't get a chance to register, but we just want to thank the folks at Tudor for hosting us on Thursday night for an opening celebration. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you were able to RSVP, looking forward to seeing you there.
If you weren't able to RSVP, don't worry. You'll be able to see everything that went down at the event. We'll get a lot of cool coverage of that party and share it with you on Worn and Wound.
And it's at the Tudor Boutique, which isn't going anywhere.
No,
this isn't like the last thing that'll ever happen there. So.
This is the best thing about having a fair in the heart of New York City. You can go to all of these boutiques. We're 10, 15 blocks south of that big, huge strip on Fifth Ave. Mm-hmm. All of the major boutiques on Fifth and Madison. You go downtown into Soho, a bunch of other cool boutiques. There's a lot going on this weekend, but no shortage of watches.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, Nelly.
Right,
the time has come.
Shortage of watches.
For you to list every brand coming to Windup, New York City in 2024. Begin.
All right, I need to take a breath. All right. We've got Abel Carey, Accutron, Adapt, Ad Patina, Arain, Alexander James, Alpina, Amano Plus, Analog Shift, Anordane, Arcanaut, Armand Nicolette, Artifact, Aster and Bakes, Atelier Wen, Aviate, Awake, Axia, BA111OD, Baltic, Bublo, Beaufort, Bida, Bespoke Watches, Blumsafe, Boulder, Boundary Layer Studio, Braver, Brew, Briston, Brooklands, Bruichladdich, Bruno, Buki, Bucci, Boosie. I'm so sorry. God. Bulova, Chris Ward, Simier, Circulus, Citizen Collective, Colorado Watch Company, CW&T, D1 Milano, Damasco, Darwill, David Lane Designs, Deluxe, DePancel, DeReich, Doxa, Duckworth, East Stolman, eBay, Echo Neutra, Edward Christopher, Elliott Brown, Erebus, Europa Star, Ferrer, Fierce, Festina, 5280 Watchco, Formex, Forstner, Fortis, Furlan Mari, Ganance, Garrick, Giant Mouse, Grand Central, G-Shock, Haim, Hodinky Insurance, Haraj, ID Genève, Islander, Isotope, Jack Mason, Jacques Bianchi, Young Hans, Quo, Laco, Lebois, Lebond, Lejour, Lorca, Laurier, Mon, Magnum, Makina, Marathon, Marchlab, Marin, Maryland Watch Company, Matt Watches, Maurice de Mauriac, Meister Singer, Micro Milspec, Miota, Mr. Jones Watches, Mula Glasuta, Nevada, Nomadic with the D, Nomatic with the T. You got that? Nostis, Orient Star, Oris, Out of Order, Pollen, Piccola, and Geoffret, Presatus, Prevail, Protec, Rado, Resco, Instruments, Robot, Serica, Sherpa, Shinola, Sideris, Space One, Spinnaker, Springmaid, Squale, Stella, Sternglass, Strom, Studio Underdog, Tax, Timex, Timor, Trafford, Trasca, Ticino, Urban Cred, Vare, Vault, Venezianico, Vortic, William Wood, Windup, Watch Shop, Woolbrook, Ren, Zarek, Yama, Zodiac.
Wow.
Jeez.
Wow. That was really great. Impressive. That was good.
Yeah.
That was, I'm impressed. Good job. Good job.
There were many moments where I was like, why are we only on B?
Wow.
What, we're on E?
46 brands.
What's going on? It really accelerates towards the end.
Us too.
Well, yeah, so that's it, folks. That's all we have to say about the fair at this moment. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a wild time. There's going to be so much to do. There's going to be so many watches to see. The Mortimer team will be there. We can talk. We can hang out. We can party. We can high five. We can show each other watches. You can go to panels. You can get your strap changed.
You can have coffee.
You can have
a
coffee.
drink.
You can get some booze. You can get
take a picture with the Heisman freaking trophy.
Yeah, you can take a picture with Kyle and Nelly. You can.
Well.
You can get a bag. You could put your watches that you bought in that bag.
Or in a case or in a safe.
Yeah, there's so much stuff you could do.
You could change the strap. You could adjust the bracelet.
Yeah, I already said that. There's so many things that you could do. It's going to be a great time. We can't wait to see you all there.
But first and foremost, you can hang out with your friends.
Yeah, it's true.
And experience enthusiasm.
And make watch friends. It's really true. So that's it. Can't wait to see you. Thanks for listening.
For all of the information that we talked about today, you can head over to windupwatchfair.com. You can check out our posts about the fair on Worn and Wound, and you can follow us on our socials.
And newsletter.
What?
And newsletter.
At Windup Watch Fair, at Worn and Wound, at Windup Watch Shop.
The Windup Watch Fair would not be possible without the amazing support of our partners. Lead sponsors, Bulova, Christopher Ward, Fortis, Oris, and Shinola. Premier sponsors, Accutron, Baltic, Brew, Citizen, Bearer, Ormex, G-Shock, Laco, Zarek, and Zodiac, with extra support from Alpina, Analog Shift, Anordane, Armand Nicolette, Aviate, Bada, Bruno Sun, Collective, Doxa, presented by Watches of Switzerland, Fears, Frederic Constant, Lejour, Magnum, Mula Glasuta, Meister Singer, Nevada, Pollen, Presatus, Robot, Spinnaker, and Space One watches, with giveaway support from our friends at Blum Safe, Atelier Wen, Padola, Europa Star, and Marathon. We have amazing support from many brands and from you, our enthusiasts. Without you, we couldn't make this happen. Thank you.
All right, now it's officially it. Unless you guys have anything else to say, we're ending the podcast now.